5 picks, 5 bold takes, and 5 minutes of my list. Welcome to the Starting 5, where we boldly rank players in many different sports and categories. I'm your host, Max Sturm, and joining me at the desk today, Calvin White and Will Kavanaugh. Guys, we're going to discuss one of the most debated topics in the NFL every single year. Who are the top 5 quarterbacks in the league? Let's get it started. Let's see it. Number 5 on the list, Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles. Guys, he is one of the most underrated, underappreciated, and disrespected quarterbacks that the league has to offer. He is a Super Bowl champion, our most recent one. He won the Super Bowl MVP. He killed Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the playoffs, going up 34-0 until 34 seconds left in the third quarter and completely wiped out who everyone thought was going to be the favorite, a 3-time champion in Patrick Mahomes. Got absolutely decimated in this game. Apart from that, he had a fantastic season, over 3,500 total yards, 32 total touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions, the very lowest of his career. Again, I think he's super disrespected in this league, and you can argue whether he's top 5 or not. To me, there is no argument. You can say Justin Herbert from the Chargers makes this list. I don't agree with it. He's done nothing so far. Going on to the next list, let's see number 4. Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. Guys, this is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. His dual threat ability can kill any team at any time, whether it's with his legs or with his arm. He is just incredible, coming off his best statistical season ever. He's a MVP runner-up, 4,100 passing yards and over 800 rushing yards. The only player in NFL history to have those statistics, 41 total touchdowns to just the 4 interceptions. He has had unprecedented numbers this year. He's comparable to Aaron Rodgers' MVP seasons of past. He's had a 119.6 quarterback ranking. That is the 4th highest ever. He had a loss to Buffalo in the divisional round that kind of hurt him with those 2 turnovers, but it was not his fault. This narrative of Lamar Jackson being a running back needs to be ended, needs to be put to rest, and put some respect on that man's name. Going on to number 3, let's see it. Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. You can seriously make the argument that this guy is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, probably, or argue that he is the best quarterback in the league. He had led a team with 0 defensive help to almost making the playoffs. No defensive help besides maybe Trey Hendrickson on that side. 9 wins on the season, nearly 5,000 yards, over 40 touchdowns, and under 10 interceptions in 2024. He had the 3rd highest QBR at 74.7, and he was an MVP finalist. The only thing that hurts this man's case is his record in 2024 and his failure to make it to the playoffs. Yes, the defense was awful, historically bad even, but you know, the reality is he is a top 3 quarterback, and he has a top 3 wide receiver and a top 15 wide receiver that he can throw to. And the only thing that really hurts his case, guys, is if you throw any of the 2 guys above him on this list, I think that they would likely put up the same numbers that Joe Burrow does. But the good news for this guy is his top 2 receivers are coming back on huge contracts, and this offense should continue to succeed. Let's see it. Number 2 on the list, Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills. Man, did I have to fight a bias to keep him off the number 1 spot. Perhaps the best, most pure athletic talent to ever grace the NFL. He won the league's most valuable player this year, and for good reason. With a team that most said wouldn't even finish 2nd or 3rd in the AFC East, he put up 3,700 yards, 13 wins on the year, 40 total touchdowns, the 5th straight season that he has done that. No other quarterback has done that more than 2 seasons in a row. Only 6 interceptions. His career low when everyone said that he is a turnover machine. A 77 QBR on the year. Had a game versus the Rams where he threw for 3 passing touchdowns and ran for 3 more. Had another game versus the 49ers where he scored a rushing, a throwing, and a receiving touchdown all in one game. Both those records, he's the only quarterback to ever do that. Again, 13-4 record on the year, led his team to the AFC Championship. The only thing that hurts this guy is the curse that this team has when it comes to playing Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. If not for Mahomes, this guy might have 2 or 3 rings already. He just signed a contract for 6 years, $330 million to stay with Buffalo, and took took a cut from his money so that the cap was not affected. Moving on to number 1, it's the obvious. How could you not? Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. As much as I wanted to put Allen at 1, how can I? This guy is the best quarterback in the league right now. Every single year, this man is doubted, and every single year, he comes back with a vengeance and brings his team for 3 straight years now to the Super Bowl. 15-1 last year, nearly 4,000 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and had the #1 seed in the AFC this year. Beat Houston and Buffalo in the playoffs en route to a Super Bowl appearance. Had perhaps his worst game ever in that Super Bowl, but it doesn't take away from what he's done. 3-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time MVP, and no one can stop this guy. No one in the AFC has been able to put up a real fight besides Joe Burrow, and he lost in his only Super Bowl appearance. There are arguments to be made, but until another guy tops Mahomes and his accomplishments, Mahomes remains at the #1 spot. Guys, I want to turn it over to you now. Calvin White, how about you get us started? What do you think of my list, man?
Well, Max, I think you have all the right people on the list, but I think you've just got them in the complete wrong order, man. First of all, Jalen Hurts at #5. I am outraged at that, not because he shouldn't be in the top 5, but because he should be above Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. He just won the Super Bowl. He just brought his team back to the Super Bowl after losing the Super Bowl. He has been in the playoffs and made the Eagles a perennial championship contender every single year. I think putting him below Lamar Jackson, who can never succeed in the playoffs, be honest, and also Joe Burrow, who didn't even make the playoffs this year and lost his only Super Bowl appearance, like you mentioned. And, I mean, you might say the stats aren't necessarily there for Jalen Hurts the same way. They're not popping out to you as they are for Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. He's not throwing 40 touchdowns, but he's running for so many touchdowns. He's winning games for the Eagles, and I think that's the most important thing for a quarterback. And also, I don't think Josh Allen is #2. I think Josh Allen is better than Patrick Mahomes. I know you tried to fight your bias, but I don't think there is any bias there. I think Patrick Mahomes just had probably one of the worst seasons of his career. Statistically, they might have gone 16-1, but they barely won those games, and they didn't look good. He didn't look necessarily all that good. I think Josh Allen showed that he was better this year. He definitely turned down those turnovers, and he looked elite.
Calvin, you disagreed with me in ways that I wasn't expecting you to disagree with me. But let's toss it over to Will Kavanaugh. What do you think of my list?
First off, Nikola Jokic can play QB.
I saw that too.
So that was funny. Second, I'm kind of with you with the Jalen Hurts thing. I think he has to be in the top 5. He's the best game manager in football right now. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he makes the big play when it's needed. He showed that in the playoffs when it was needed. Their offensive firepower was huge. He had Saquon next to him. Their run game, their pass game, everything was there. And obviously, they smoked Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. I have Joe Burrow at 4. And I think statistically, can compete with any of them. I think talent-wise, he can compete with any of them. But his yards per game and his touchdowns per game was so high because he was always down. And that's not necessarily his fault. It's not. But he was always on the comeback. So he was throwing the ball 50 times. And until he wins the playoffs, until he gets to the playoffs, and I'm going to blame the defense too on that. It's not just his fault. I have him at 4. I have to. Lamar, he could have won MVP again. He was not going to win MVP. Josh Allen was going to be the MVP. But Lamar could have been the MVP. Okay?
I think he should have been the MVP, honestly. I mean, he had a better season this year than Josh Allen, but Josh Allen showed in the playoffs, when it comes down to it, he is a better player. So I think talking MVP-wise, or talking best quarterbacks, strictly Josh Allen, but better for MVP race.
Okay.
I'm going to say Lamar Jackson.
You've got Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes on my list. You have him at #1, but you think Lamar Jackson should have won MVP this year?
Yeah, I don't think MVP and best quarterback are necessarily the exact same thing. This year, Lamar Jackson was the most valuable player on his team. I don't think the Ravens do anything with anybody else the same way he did. He is their entire offense.
Cal, let me cut you off for a second, though. According to the NFL, they don't throw the MVP off the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying.
Josh Allen was the MVP. My point was that Lamar Jackson had an MVP-like season, and he has to be in the top 3. He competes with both of them all year long. And one of those turnovers in the playoffs, if we look at the playoffs like it seems like you are, one of those was not a turnover, okay? But I just don't think Lamar is above Josh Allen.
Lamar Jackson, you can argue, he did have his best season ever, remember?
Exactly.
A fantastic season from Lamar Jackson, a historic season, you could even say.
Which is why he should have been the MVP.
Right, sure, but look at who he lost to. He had a loss to the Browns, who were terrible this year. He lost to the Raiders. Josh Allen only lost to the Texans, who were doing really good at the start of that season before all their injuries. They lost to the Rams, who were getting super hot at the right time down the stretch in a super competitive game. Allen only had 3 losses on the year. I just don't know how you can say that Lamar Jackson should have won the MVP, but that's not the list. We're talking about
exactly.
We're talking about this. And as far as your Jalen Hurts analysis goes, like I said, super disrespected. He should be on this list. But this is really the first year that we're talking about him being a top 5 quarterback after his season.
Totally
Remember,
agree.
he was elevated in part due to Saquon Barkley. Remember,
Correct.
The guy had 2,000 yards on the season. I think putting him here is completely fair.
And like I said, he's a game manager. He's still a game manager.
Joe Burrow had another historic season with a terrible defense. And Will, to your point, yes, playing down some crunch time stats, but coming down the stretch, he had several chances in close games that he had to perform, and he did, and his defense let him down.
I'll finish up really quick. I have to have Allen at 2. I can't have him at 1 yet. He was the MVP this year. He's so good. He's going to probably win another MVP coming up for sure. But he hasn't beat Mahomes in the big games yet. He has not. And that, in my opinion, that's like saying Peyton Manning was better than Tom Brady. Like, you can't. You cannot.
I absolutely agree. And being a Bills fan, that's my bias. Like, I want to put Allen up there just because of the player he is and the season he had this year. Mahomes, really, if you talk about it, stats-wise, 2 down seasons in a row from what he's had.
Yes,
but his greatness is what continues to bring him to the Super Bowl over and over again. But if you guys don't have anything else to say, any last arguments?
I mean, I've got one last argument. You said that Jalen Hurts is disrespected by everyone, and I think you are disrespecting him right now by saying that he hasn't proven that he's a top 3 quarterback yet. I think he has. He's gone to the Super Bowl twice. He's won it once. He beat the possibly going to be the greatest player of all time in the Super Bowl.
Let's relax with that.
Look, maybe it was the defense. It was the defense, but the quarterback still has to show up and win. Okay, that's how it works. Okay, and he did, and he went to
that particular game.
And every single year the Eagles
defense did to Patrick Mahomes. They had him running around all game long. It looked like the Tampa Bay Super Bowl.
I know,
again.
and you bring that up, and I say, would you discredit Tom Brady for winning that Super Bowl just because he had a good defense? No, you can't. He is still the reason they got there. The year before that, they didn't make the playoffs. Then boom, Tom Brady gets there.
40. Brady was 40 when he won that Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts is 26.
Which is even more impressive.
But I don't know about that.
Yes, it is.
Brady never moved around in the pocket like that.
Okay.
But I think putting Jalen Hurts
It's disrespectful enough. It's respectful enough.
The disrespect was putting Justin Herbert over Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I think you got the right people.
Has been terrible in anything besides the regular season.
Look out for Drake May, 2025.
Okay, and that's where we're going to cut you guys off. Thank you, everybody, for watching the Starting 5. I'm Max Sturm, joined alongside Calvin White and Will Kavanaugh. Have a great rest of your night.